The Timberwolves get Ayo Dosunmu before the trade deadline from the Bulls. A quick bonus mini episode, quick analysis about this trade next.
You are Locked On Timberwolves, your daily Minnesota Timberwolves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into another episode of Locked On Wolves, a special bonus episode, trade deadline afternoon here at Locked On Wolves. Happy Thursday, everybody. A big thank you for making the show your first listen every day. I'll be back with the full episode later tonight with Jack Borman, Wolves analyst on the postcast here at Locked On Wolves. We're going to unpack this trade every which way, but I want to get you with a quick hit thoughts on the Ayo Dosunmu acquisition and why this was a really good move for the Timberwolves. I have a few key points I'm going to run down for you, and I love the move. If you're following me on X at Beecken, 2Bs, 2ECKEN, I've been posting throughout the day about why I believe this move is really good for Minnesota. And also, I think a pretty, we could get in down the road on the Rob Dillingham thing and why the Timberwolves burned through some assets there. Sure, the process isn't perfect, but the result is how many games you win, where do you finish at the end of the year? And so far, Tim Conley's track record is pretty solid. Number one, the reason why this is a good move. If you missed it, Timberwolves get Ayo Dosunmu and Julian Phillips for the Chicago Bulls. They trade out Rob Dillingham, Leonard Miller, and 4 second-round picks. I'm not going to get into the details on those picks. There's one of them that's only really loosely valuable. There's a couple that are in the 2031, 2032 range, a ton of least favorable picks and stuff like that. There's a lot of different qualifiers there, but that's the trade. Number one, the key thing is the Timberwolves have improved their rotation. We're talking about a team that's 5th in the Western Conference, only a couple games out of the 3 spot, and a team that's been to consecutive conference finals, and yet only has really, before this trade, I'm going to say 6.5 rotation guys, right? The 5 starters plus Naz Reid. Bones Hyland is a half because some nights he is and some nights he isn't, and when he's on, he's really on, and when he's off, he's not. He's off, right? And I've removed Jalen Clark from this because I don't think Chris Finch trusts him right now, and even if he was part of this, he'd be another half, so we'd still be talking about 7 rotation guys, okay? They now have an 8th rotation guy. So you want to call Jalen Clark a half and Bones Hyland a half. That gets us to 7. Ayo Dosunmu is now the 7th guy, and those two guys slide down a half spot each in the pecking order. Ayo Dosunmu is a legit rotation guy. And honestly, I think, given what we know of him right now, and he's still dude's still only 26. He just turned 26 a couple of weeks ago. There's still room for improvement there. He's obviously going to get an extension. We're going to talk a little bit about that. But his ideal role right now is the 7th guy. He's probably not a starting guy. And he was overexposed at times in Chicago the last couple of years in a very mediocre Bulls team as a part-time starter. And he's not a true 6-man, microwave scorer. I know he's scored 15 a game this year, mostly off the bench with the Bulls. But, there's maybe some flukiness. He's shooting by far a career high from outside the arc. But all that to say, he is hands down a rotation player. He's a solid 2-way player. They traded, put a better way, the Timberwolves traded 0 rotation guys for 1 legit rotation guy. They went from 7 rotation guys to 8 without giving up a single player that's giving them value this season. That matters when you're competing for a title. They're not competing to simply make the playoffs. They're not competing for 2 years from now. They're competing to win the title this season. I get all the OKC stuff, but guess what? They're not going anywhere. This year matters as much as next year does. And arguably more because of the relative health they've had to this point. And we don't know what next year holds, right? Number 2, this improves the Timberwolves shooting, which is super important. Again, 2 rotation guys for a guy that's shooting 45% from 3. Yes, last year he was 33%, but he also was banged out, played only 46 games all season. 2 years ago, he's 40%. So for his career, he's just a shade under 38%. He's had 2 bad shooting years. His second year in the league, he was 31% on relatively low volume, and last year when he was injured. Besides that, he was 38% as a rookie, 40% in year 3, and 45% this year. No matter how you slice it, the Timberwolves improved their shooting by acquiring Ayo Dosunmu. Number 3, they've added another capable, switchable defender. He's not a plus defender. He's fine. I think he's a different defender than Dante DiVincenzo. I think he'll be a better defender with the Timberwolves than he was with the Bulls. You're not going to ask him to guard a superstar on the other team, but you're not going to ask DiVincenzo to do that either. I think he's similar in terms of his impact. I think and actually I would say the same thing about both of them with the ball in their hands. Neither one of them is a point guard, They're both capable ball handlers. They're both capable defenders. You're just talking about combo guards, and really Dosunmu is more of a shooting guard than a combo guard. Combo guards that can do multiple things well and a couple of things really well. And in Dosunmu's case, that's getting to the rim, and it's shooting threes. So that matters. And so just to add another capable, and of course, he's not Nickeil Alexander-Walker when it comes to defense, but he's a more well-rounded, consistent offensive player. And that also matters. I've got a couple more things. I do want to talk about the contract and the assets that we're getting sent out. We'll do that here next on the show. Today's bonus episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our friends at Indeed. Hiring isn't just about finding someone who's willing to take the job. It's about finding the right person with the right background who can actually help your business move forward. If you want candidates to match what you're looking for, Indeed Sponsored Jobs is the move. Instead of hoping the right person stumbles across your post, Indeed will help you match with quality candidates by boosting your job listing to the people who fit your specific criteria like skills, certifications, and location. If I were hiring, I wouldn't just want someone who can help. I'd want someone who actually has real experience that can jump right in. Here's a stat that says it all. In the 1 minute that I'm talking to you here right now about Indeed, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. If you're hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. Today's bonus episode of Locked On Wolves is also brought to us by TurboTax. Tax season does not have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax Full Service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert start to finish without stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They'll handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms and work to get you every single deduction. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert did not file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. Today's episode is also brought to us by FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, the big game is the one that everyone's waiting for. It's where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, just bet $5. Get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, this season is over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, a couple more thoughts here on the Dosunmu trade. Dosunmu. There we go. Dosunmu trade. Ayo Dosunmu is, in addition to improving the rotation, being a great shooter and a capable switchable defender, he also adds another element to the front, to the half-court offense the Timberwolves don't actually have enough of, and that's putting pressure on the rim, especially as an active cutter. He's pretty good getting to the rim in transition, but in terms of moving without the basketball, which I talked about this just the other night, I think it was actually after the Raptors game, how in the first half, especially, there was no movement. Especially with Julius, Randle handles the ball. Like, everyone knows what he's going to do, and it's been really effective this year. But Randle's a good passer, and yet nobody's cutting. With Ant, you get a little bit more of it. When Jaden has the ball, where we saw him make a couple of really nice passes to Gobert, once for a turnover because Gobert wasn't ready, and once for a dunk. Like, the Wolves have enough playmakers now, and I know we talked about playmaking, there being a bit of a dearth of it, but I actually think because Randle has gotten an opportunity to continue to grow that skill set, and McDaniels has improved so much, and Bones is playing well at the moment, and Anthony Edwards is obviously improved as a playmaker, just having more guys that know how to cut makes it that much easier. You don't need somebody to take on three guys and make a crazy pass. You just need somebody who can cut off the ball and get himself open and finish at the rim, which is something Ayo Dosunmu is really good at doing. This season, Ayo Dosunmu has shot nearly 41% of his shot attempts are within 3 feet of the rim, according to Basketball Reference. For his career, 37.5% are at the rim. That's awesome. He doesn't shoot mid-range jumpers. So like this season, we're talking less than 20% of his shots are between 10 feet and outside. No, I'm sorry. Not less than 20%. 2% of his shots are between the paint and outside the arc. 40% are threes and 41% are at the rim. Most of the rest of them are within 10 feet. I was going to say, I knew it wasn't 20%. That's a big number. So he's shooting at the rim or he's shooting threes. And a lot of it is because he's a cutter, not because he's creating for himself with the ball in his hands a ton. He could do a little bit of it. Now, the vast majority of his three-point attempts are assisted. 92% of his made threes are assisted, which makes sense. That's the type of player he is, and that's what you want. But again, the finishing at the rim, the moving without the ball, the intelligence in the half court is super important, and he does all of those things. Another thing I want to mention, I'm going to get a lot more into this with Jack Borman on the show following this one. The Timberwolves could not have made this trade had they not made the Mike Conley trade first. By making the Mike Conley trade first, the Timberwolves were allowed to take more salary back than they sent out. Rob Dillingham and Leonard Miller together are a little under $8.8 million. Ayo Dosunmu and Julian Phillips, who we'll talk more about on a later Locked On Wolves show. He's not obviously going to be a rotation guy, but there is some interest there. They make collectively about $1 million more, nearly $1 million more. It's like just under 9.8. Dillingham and Miller were under 8.8. So as a first apron team, the Wolves would not have been able to complete that trade. Now, could they have done some other stuff and maneuvered? Sure. But now look what they did. They created a worst case scenario where they saved like $20 million in salary, in luxury tax money if they had done nothing. They allowed themselves to make this trade easily. And now Mike Conley, who's been traded again to Charlotte and since waived already at the time of this recording, very likely he comes back to Minnesota. And say what you want about Mike Conley, the basketball player right now, the Timberwolves unquestionably value him in the locker room. And that matters for a team that is going to need some good vibes if they're going to overtake OKC and Denver, et cetera, in the West and get to the finals and ultimately win the finals. So there was a lot of impressive maneuvering here from Tim Connolly. And this Conley trade that happened roughly 24 hours or a little less than 24 hours prior to the Dosunmu trade needed to happen. The last thing is because of the cost that the cost to acquire Dosunmu, the Timberwolves are certainly going to extend him. He's eligible for up to 3 years and $52 million. They have his bird rights. He's extension eligible now between right now and June 30th. And ultimately, I'll talk more about this later on the show, but one of the reasons they would have acquired him instead of Coby White, one, I do think he's more of a seamless fit. Coby White's a bit more of a disruptor, some less efficiency there. He's going to need the ball a little bit more. So I think Dosunmu fits more easily and quickly and seamlessly to this current Timberwolves team. But I also think a Dosunmu extension is less than a Coby White extension, ultimately. And I don't necessarily think he gets the full 3 years, $52 million, but the Wolves are surely working on an extension already with him and his agent, and no doubt will ultimately extend him. Otherwise, they would not have given up a former first rounder, a high second rounder, and Leonard Miller, and then 4 second-round picks. And we'll talk more about the acquisition cost here and some of the sunk costs along the way, but you can't get caught up into the sunk cost fallacy. What matters is that this trade matters for this year's team right now, and you're not mortgaging the future. They didn't trade, like, if you don't trade the first-round picks for Rudy Gobert years ago, this team's not a back-to-back conference finalist with the opportunity to acquire a guy like Giannis now, whether or not it happens. And the opportunity to go back to the conference finals because they're building up this roster on Anthony Edwards and hopefully get beyond the conference finals. We'll talk more about this later. That's it for this bonus episode. I'll be back later this evening with Jack Borman of the Locked On Wolves postcast to break down this trade in more detail, get his thoughts on some of the maneuvering from Tim Connolly. Of course, I'll be back. I guess Jack's show, it'll be Friday's show. I'll be back again over the weekend here with another show discussing the fallout from the trade deadline. So plenty to talk about here in the coming days. Big thank you for making Locked On Wolves your first listen, for tuning into this very special bonus episode. We'll catch you next time. Keep your keep your eyes open, head up, whatever, for the episode with Jack coming on later tonight. We'll catch you next time.